finally happened. The guy who made stepbacks look like layups walked onto the floor looking lighter, quicker, and a little bit meaner. Not myth, not another blurry off-season photo. A real game, a real whistle, and a leaner Luka Doncic moving with the kind of snap that makes defenders rethink their scouting report. If you've heard this before, fair. But this time, it isn't whispers. It's visible. And if the body changed, the math of guarding him changed with it. There's a reason fans get obsessed with skinny Luka. Conditioning isn't a vanity project. It's an engine upgrade. The questions are simple. Does the jumper last longer? Does the first step hit faster? And does he finally turn those almost steals into clean takeaways when he's on defense? Today, we break all of it down. What actually looks different? What still needs proof? And what this means for both Slovenia and the Lakers once the real games start. The transformation didn't start on the court. It started with boring, relentless habits. And the payoff shows up in places you wouldn't expect. The new frame is not a magic trick. It's repetition. Eating cleaner. Sleeping better. 2-a-days that didn't need a camera to count. You can see the outcome in the way he moves. Shorter gather. Quicker release. More bounce off that right leg when he hits the brakes and spins. Even his decoys carry more threat. Jab, look, snap. The ball barely pauses. Here's the part that matters most. Pace tolerance. Luka has always lived at his own tempo, like a point guard who plays chess in a room full of sprinters. The lighter version doesn't abandon that rhythm. It sharpens it. When he drags a big into space, the first change of speed is now sharp enough to demand help a beat earlier, which opens the pocket pass sooner and keeps the weak side tagger in 2 minds. That half second, that's the difference between a contested floater and a dunk for his roller. Defensively, conditioning doesn't turn you into a wing stopper overnight. It does let you press higher for the first 5 minutes, fight over 1 more screen per possession, and recover to your matchup without living on reach-ins. Those are the unglamorous wins that flow from boring discipline, and they're exactly how you shave points in May. Exhibitions are weird. Rotations are short, whistles are long, and coaches are experimenting. Still, Luka's return offered tells. The pull-up settled early, the footwork inside the arc looked crisp, and the finishing touch through contact felt familiar in the best way. More important than the makes, though, was the decision speed. Catch, read, deliver. No drama. No extra dribbles to set the table. He didn't need them. Watch how the body change shows up in micro moments. The ability to split a hedge without getting chested off the line. The pop to reaccelerate after a bump. The balance to stick a foul through contact and still kiss it off glass. You also saw a pass or two that lives in the only a few guys try this category. Late lob, wrong hand, perfect arc. That's confidence wrapped inside control. Is one game a verdict? Never. But it's a baseline. The reads were clean, the legs looked fresher. The box score didn't have to be absurd to tell you something real had shifted. Of course, the greatest version of Luka always starts from 3 feet beyond the line, because the jumper unlocks everything else. Shooting is engineering. Legs, core, arm path, and breath, all repeating under fatigue. When you're heavier and your usage is sky high, mechanics drift late in games. A lighter frame doesn't magically give you a new stroke, but it preserves the old one deeper into the fourth. That means more arc on tired shots, fewer front rim misses, and a higher percentage on the pull-ups that turn a tough defensive plan into a guessing game. The other edge is cadence. Luka's stop-start is elite, but the separation window after a step back is tiny. If the lift is back, the ball leaves sooner and higher before the contest closes. A 2% bump on off-the-dribble threes doesn't sound loud until you stack it over 600 attempts. That's swing points, that's endgame gravity. Corner shooters live off others. Luka lives off himself. A fresher body helps him keep that self-creation engine humming, especially on nights when the whistle goes quiet and the free throws don't arrive on schedule. But the most surprising improvement didn't come above the break. It came in the lanes between defenders, where one habit shift changes everything. The best offenses aren't about the first pass, they're about the next decision. Leaner legs don't make you smarter, but they do remove the lag that slows brilliant players down when the lungs burn. Luka's summer version looks less interested in dribbling his way into certainty and more willing to make the quick, good choice. Kick to the corner before help finishes rotating. Hit the roller early so the low man must foul or give up a dunk. Skip it opposite the second he sees a chest turn. These are micro benefits of macro habits. Better sleep, cleaner fuel, more consistent training. When he trusts the first read, the entire possession moves on time. There's another layer. The slimmer waist means defenders can't chest him off angle as easily without obvious contact. That keeps his shoulders square on drives and preserves passing lanes he used to lose by a fraction. In playoff math, that fraction is the series. All that said, the skeptics aren't wrong. There are two places the new frame must still pass exams: defense and durability.
Nobody is asking Luka to be a wing stopper. What they're asking is simpler. Pressure the ball at the start of the quarter, fight across one more screen when it matters, and close to shooters on time instead of on reputation. A better base gives him the first step to shade driving angles and the breath to recover without a grab. It also lowers the frequency of walk-back possessions after heavy offensive stretches. On switches, the goal is survivability. Lighter Luka can sit a touch lower, slide once more, and channel drives to help without needing a late swipe. That limits foul bait and keeps him on the floor when the whistle gets playoff stingy. Durability is the silent headline. Less stress on joints over 36 minutes, fewer dead leg nights on back-to-backs. Opponents will still hunt him, every star gets hunted, but the new frame gives him the cardio to answer with activity instead of only with IQ. That's a playoff answer, not a preseason promise.
Tease. But this transformation isn't just about Slovenia's prep games. It rewrites how the Lakers use him from October to June. On the Lakers, Luka's usage remains sky high, but the distribution can shift. A sharper first step lets him turn the corner without as many bully dribbles. That saves beats on the shot clock and opens second side actions for teammates. If the pull-up holds late, you can close games with spread pick and roll and trust the math to win. 4 shooters, 1 roller, and a star who can either score off a switch or punish drop until the coverage breaks. The fitness buzz also fuels the MVP chatter. Awards are narratives glued to numbers. If the numbers spike, efficiency, clutch scoring, early season pace, and the story is transform star leads team through a brutal schedule, the campaign writes itself. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed. It means it's available. For the locker room, leadership looks different when your best player shows up lighter and louder. Teammates notice who arrives first, who says no to shortcuts, who pushes sprints to the finish. That kind of example leaks into defensive effort and late game execution. It isn't a stat, but it shows up on the scoreboard. Tease. Of course, no transformation is bulletproof. Here's the honest checklist the season will grade. 3-point volume versus efficiency. If the pull-up climbs even slightly while the catch and shoot holds steady, the spacing tax opponents pay becomes unbearable. If it dips, defenders will test his patience with early sags and late digs. Turnovers on pressure. A fresher base should lower the rate on soft doubles and late clock blitzes. If it doesn't, teams will trap anyway and live with rotation math. Free throw rate. Leaner shouldn't mean lighter at the rim. If contact finishing stays strong, whistle math stays in his favor. Fourth quarter legs. This is the whole point. If the legs hold, the arc holds. If the arc holds, the MVP noise gets real. Defensive attention to detail. It's not about hero plays. It's about the boring closes and the screen navigations that don't make a montage but save 4 points. Tease. If he checks most of those boxes, there's a very short list of teams ready for what that means in May. Tournament basketball compresses risk. Games stack, whistles vary, scouting turns microscopic. A Luka who can press higher early, conserve energy with quicker kills on offense, and still organize teammates in crunch time changes Slovenia's ceiling. He doesn't need a perfect roster. He needs margins. Better legs give him margins. Expect the same playmaking genius, skip passes that shouldn't exist, pocket dimes nobody sees, footwork that turns traffic into space. The difference is how often he can repeat it in the second half of a back-to-back group stage. Conditioning is consistency disguised as stamina. Tease. Strip away the jerseys and the headlines, and what remains is the simplest truth of all. Luka didn't get good this summer, He was already that. What changed is how often he can summon it. In the NBA, greatness isn't a highlight. It's a habit you can deliver on demand. A leaner frame and tighter routines give him more on demand. Fewer empty possessions from fatigue, more shot attempts with clean mechanics late, more possessions started with ball pressure instead of a jog back. So, what happens next? Opponents will adjust. They'll bump him early, test the pull-up, and chase him off the line. Some nights the touch will fade anyway. Some whistles won't come. But if this version really sticks, if the body is the new baseline, then the best defender on the other team just got a harder job. And the best offense on Luka's team just got simpler. He didn't change who he is. He changed how long he can be it. And that's the difference between an MVP season and a what if. If you want the follow-up breaking down film, first step timings, shot quality maps, and how defenses shifted coverages over the last 2 years, stick around. Because the most dangerous thing about skinny Luka isn't the photos, it's the math that shows up once the season starts.